Okay, so reacting to alerts or issues. Well, we have two different types. We have passive response, and as you may guess, it doesn't really do much as far as taking any action, but it's going to log the issue for later analysis. All right, so it could notify an admin or kick someone off, kick off rather some type of workflow, but it's not going to actually take any preventative action. Okay, so there's within a passive response, you can log it, you can notify, or you could shun or ignore the attack. All right, now you might say, well, why would I want to ignore it? Well, if you have a web server, let's say, for instance, that's running MySQL, and there's people attacking that web server trying to run some type of SQL exploit, like some Microsoft SQL exploit, but you don't have Microsoft SQL running, well, you can ignore that attack because it's never going to amount to anything. Okay, so that may be one possibility. There's obviously other examples, but if the attacker couldn't possibly execute their attack for whatever that purpose might be, well, then you can effectively shun that or ignore it. Otherwise, you're trying to analyze things that don't really matter. Conversely, we have an active response. Active response, by nature, is going to issue some type of action. Now, whether that means block a port, reset connections, or initiate a configuration change. All right, so it could be we want to change configuration on a router, or do some type of network or server system change to block or prevent future instances of that malicious activity. Configuration changes, again, are trickier because you don't want to necessarily lock yourself out or have the cure basically be worse than the disease. But carefully crafted configuration changes can be very effective in blocking very sophisticated attacks. It's just a matter of coordinating throughout the entire system and coordinating with the various teams that are responsible for threat remediation and mitigation. But the thing I want you to understand here is that there are the two main types of response: passive and then active. And then the last type of response is deception. And deception is basically kind of like a honeypot scenario where you're purposely allowing someone to come in and attack your system so that you can identify or analyze, basically watch what they're doing. So a lot of times companies will place purposely poorly configured servers in a place on the network that's accessible. They'll allow people to come in and actually start to bang against or hack against that system so that they can get a good idea of where that person's coming from, so on and so forth. So it helps them to learn what's being done and then protect against that, against the real assets of their organization. All right, so intrusion detection systems. We have one that I just want to call your attention to, one called Snort. It's www.snort.org, and it's by far one of the more popular intrusion detection systems and open source systems that are available on the market. It runs on various Linux distributions or distros, and it's also available for Windows. And it's a real-time monitoring, protocol analyzer, sniffer software. It pretty much does everything revolving around intrusion detection and packet or protocol analyzation and network sniffing. Okay, the next thing is spam filters, and spam is everyone's favorite topic when it comes to email. Spam is a major issue that everyone's familiar with, okay, everyone that's been on the internet in the last 15 years. So 90% of all email is reported to be spam content. I mean, that's a staggering number, quite frankly. So a lot of it out there, I know me personally, I get 200 or 300 emails a day, and probably 180 of those are junk. So luckily, a lot of that gets caught in my spam filters, so I never really see it. But if I go in and start peeking through my spam filter, it's amazing, how many different offers for this and that I get every single day. And I'm sure you do as well. So spam filters themselves, they use rules or heuristics to detect if email is bogus. It's based upon header information, content of the email itself, or it could be an IP address or an IP block. All right, so there's different ways of detecting that spam, and then there are different filters and rules that are set up so that when that spam comes in, it will either delete it at the source or at the ISP level or at the corporate kind of gateway level, or it may filter down to an individual's system, and that individual system has its own spam filters that can go out and crush that spam, either delete it or put it into a separate folder. Okay, so as I say, the spam filters themselves can be enterprise level, company-wide, or they can be down to the individual computer. And I also have listed out here some of the more popular spam control software and devices out there. Spam Assassin is one of the big ones. Postini, which was big for a long time, probably 13 or 14 years, just went end of life last year, but I just listed it because a lot of people are still familiar with it. Barracuda Networks has some anti-spam devices and spam filtering devices. Of course, all the big names, Microsoft, Symantec, Trend Micro, McAfee, they all have their specific spam filtering tools.